What if Darth Vader was the Emperor? A short Star Wars what if right here on Dank Ferric. But before we begin, if you enjoy this content and would like to see more, then go and hit that subscribe button. More what ifs, lore dives, and far more is on the way, and it's coming on the regular. But now, without anything further, this is What If Darth Vader Was the Emperor. Now, let's begin our story. The HoloNews headlines flashed vibrantly across the galaxy. Palpatine was dead. He was killed by the hands of rebel assassins, and with his death, Lord Vader, the loyal right hand of the late Emperor, would rise as the new Emperor of the galaxy. And as those headlines finally faded on the news networks, only Vader would know the truth. He killed his master and ascended to the throne, but Vader would be a different leader of the Galactic Empire than Palpatine was. He had finally killed Sidious, just as he so often dreamed of. But now it was time to rule. But what sort of ruler would Lord Vader be compared to his predecessor? Well, let's answer that now. And the truth is that Vader and Sidious were very different Sith Lords. They had different ways of thinking, different ideas on what focus should be upon, and that's where things are shaken up. One of the offsets here is that Palpatine would still linger. You may just think that Vader would put things in order fairly quickly, but in truth, Palpatine's contingency plan would be activated upon his untimely death. And if Vader wanted to sustain his rise in station, he would have to combat these contingencies, while also dealing with the rebellion. This would make it a dangerous time for Vader's empire, a dangerous time for the galaxy. Now hold on just a minute. Let's just say all of this occurred in the time, or just before, of A New Hope, around 20 years-ish after the death of the Galactic Republic. This is where Tarkin comes in, because Vader actually trusted Tarkin quite a bit. They had served together since the Clone Wars, regularly so perhaps Vader dubs Tarkin a chancellor in the Empire. This aids Vader in the diplomatic affairs department, and because this is the Empire, Tarkin would still retain his military authority on top of this hefty promotion. This would aid Vader immensely. Now with a governing body in place at the top of the pyramid and a chancellor assigned, Vader's direct and no-nonsense methods would become clear as the new emperor, as he used these to rule his new government and the galaxy. He used far less proxies than Palpatine ever did, and he suffered no fools as he held the throne. The Empire would be run with a firm hand. The Emperor would be known by the troops from Vader's time on the field, and thus loyalty would rise. Now that's not to say any extreme Palpatine ride-or-die loyalists wouldn't splinter, or at least try to. They just might. However, this is why we have Tarkin. His devotion was known, feared, and respected, and that paired with Vader's might could just keep any overly bold Imperials in check. However, I will say this. Palpatine was always a Dark Lord of the Sith first, and an Emperor second. But with Vader, I believe we might see those two things blend and mesh a bit more. No, he wouldn't expose himself fully to the public, but I do believe that many of his goals from this point out could align with the Empire and its governing of the galaxy a bit more than it did with Palpatine, whereas Palpatine was always quite heavily focused on himself and his power and never losing it. And this is where the what if becomes not just mine, but also yours. So let me ask you these questions and answer them for me. Would the Empire have fallen at Endor if Vader was Emperor? Remember, Palpatine's overconfidence was his weakness, but Vader was more capable of putting things into check, at least mentally. Or do you believe that perhaps the first Death Star wouldn't have been destroyed if Vader ruled with Tarkin? Let me know your thoughts to these questions in the comments. I'm super curious to hear what you guys think and where your minds are turning with this theory. But without anything further, I will catch you guys on the next one. Stay safe, and remember that the Force will be with you, now and always.